Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about American swagger. The special sauce that makes the American Negro unique has been slow cooking for centuries. African genes, the will to survive and thrive in any situation, but also the ability to do it with style, rhythm, and a signature that appears in every part of modern global culture. This topic began as a discussion about how modern dudes are losing their swagger. Modern dudes are becoming lame, soft, weak, whatever you want to slap on there that proves it is the opposite of what it has been. How there has been a decline in style. And I really think part of it is the over-reliance on technology.
How about this? They need legitimacy for everything. You know, you can have a conversation with somebody now, and the first thing they do is run to Google. And if it's not in Google, if it's not on the internet, then, it didn't happen, or it doesn't work like that. So, you mean to tell me that before you had that little plastic dick in your hand, you couldn't figure nothing out? They don't believe in talking to their elders? There's other sources out there. And so I think that's what drives me crazy. We always want to talk about slavery, talk about oppression. KRS-One said it best. Don't nobody rob no place that ain't got nothing. We've been lied to, stolen from, and these motherfuckers actually look up to us, but we just don't know it.
People would think it has something to do with entertainment or it's related to other things, but the over-reliance on technology is probably the largest factor because relying on technology too much, you can see an immediate deficit in what it does to your awareness, whether that's spatial, spiritual, social, all the above apply to this situation. Now, I am not some Luddite. I'm like, I'm not going to use a cell phone, or I'm not going to use the internet, or no. See, we were born with 1 foot in analog and 1 foot in digital. And so we saw the progression, growth, and evolution of all these different types of technologies and their applications. The problem that I'm having is that people have to unplug because what makes us funky is not something artificial. There's no artifice that makes us funky. What makes us funky is homemade.
Nothing made us who we were. These motherfuckers nowadays, this defines them. And you are so right. Like when you said we were digital analog, we saw the future, but we saw the past simultaneously. One eye was looking one way. I know it's terrible to say, but we looked at both. We could see, how this could be used in the past, how this could be used in the future. We grew up like that. Whether it was writing, building a treehouse, whatever we did, we did it with both feet in time, in the time stream going both directions. Nowadays, they only look into the future and the possible future, not even the definite.
The possibility that timelines have been altered. And so with the alteration of timelines, then you have a technological spatial temporal gaslighting that has been applied to everybody. But I'm concerned with black people in this discussion because this gaslighting can affect your identity. Now, we have 400 years of proof of what tampering with people's identity can do.
Looks like. Yes.
Right.
But hold it. I'm your biggest fan. We've been in the podcast however many years. Like you had talked about socialism and things over there where you had these technocrats where they would put the smartest guy in charge and all they cared about was technology. I'm looking at all the past podcasts and how many times the shit that you talked about then is still relevant till now, and how we think, we'll put the smartest guy in charge and just walk off. It don't work like that. And the smartest guy based on what? And right now people think the smartest guy is AI. That's not true. Also in the past podcasts, I keep putting it out there. If a woman is pregnant and she consumes 8 eggs a day or niacin, these are different things that we know for a fact. If the woman is consuming while she's pregnant, that child, he or she will be a genius. So that means that we are intentionally dumbing down our people. And by dumbing down our people, then you're making people who are dependent on technology. Or they think, like I said, AI is not even a thing. Why do people keep falling behind the shit? But yeah. That's what makes you special, bro. Like you done put some shit out there. I'm like, every single time I see it coming now. And that's what we try to do is educate you people who listen to us is that this is a hustle. This is a shell game. This is the long con. And they use the word AI. That's the con. And I guess what I'm saying is people say, I don't believe in religion, but then they sit here and create their own religion with something else that's not proven either. That's what I'm talking about.
AI can benefit humanity and civilization, but it should be applied to things that are an extremely heavy lift for people, like or what appear to be incurable diseases, or major technological problems, or mathematical conundrums, or space travel. Things that are an extremely heavy lift.
Difficult.
I don't
AI
need
should be
it
doing
to make me a better version of what I am, because God does that. You know what I'm saying? I work at doing that.
I don't need AI to make me a better parent, but I need AI to cure cancer. That's what we're saying. AI should be working on difficult things while we sit here and live our normal lives and improve our lives. Like I said, I saw this commercial for AI where the AI was filling in the spreadsheet and doing this. Now you can go home early. Yeah, you're fired. You sit there and give AI your job, you're going to be fired. Second, how many times have we seen AI doesn't work, but nobody talks about those? I thought about filing a lawsuit because of discrimination. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to run it down real quick. How come when me and you make a mistake at work, we get written up, but when the AI makes a mistake, nothing happens? And they keep pushing and pushing AI more and more money to make it work, and it doesn't work. So how come AI or the programmers don't get written up or get in trouble like me and you do? That's my issue. So, yeah, you need to recognize that you're being discriminated against because you're human.
The problem is your humanity is being pruned.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge problem. Now, AI isn't doing that. It's shitbag human beings that are doing that. And they are creating a society where people are not connecting with each other. Well, the American swagger that I'm talking about, it is a result of human interaction. It is a human interaction that has been proven through social engagements and entertainment, intellectual engagements. These things are the proof of people interacting with each other. When you take people away from each other, when you separate people from each other, then we don't have these mirrors to reflect our light into and off of.
Do you know that it's illegal if a job tells you that you can't discuss your pay? Say you guys are working on the same crew, and somebody says, I'm getting paid $17 an hour. And the other guy says, no, I'm getting paid 23. And the job tries to say that, oh, you can't do that. That's literally illegal. You're discussing part of your job. Well, that's what I'm talking about when it comes to humanity. Right now, we're not discussing humanity anymore. In fact, every time you turn around, they make a rule. You can't talk about women. You can't talk about men. You can't talk about anything, because if you can't communicate, you can't realize you're getting fucked by the same person. There's a website, there's a group on Facebook called "Are We Fucking the Same Guy?" and people will sit here and discuss, oh, I meet him at this time, and they realize, oh, we're fucking the same dude. Well, that's what America's doing, and that's what this fake AI super intelligence is doing, where I'm treating you one way, I'm treating you another way, I'm doing your job. Next thing you know, all of us will be out of work. We'll be getting a stagnant for a little while. The next thing you know, the Matrix happens. That's the shit we're talking about. So you gotta talk so you can realize that we're being fucked. And when Roscoe told you in the beginning of the conversation that people change history, people change identities, they make up stuff. They steal your legacy, they steal your name, they steal your past. That's what we're talking about. And if you sit here and you need AI, say for instance, if I ask AI, am I Cherokee, and they send me a picture of somebody else that's not like me, and I know for a fact my great grandfather John Granberry was Cherokee, what do you do then? Stop letting AI and other people define you, because first time they do it, it's against your will. Second time, you volunteer. And when you start volunteering, you can't get this shit back. You let the vampire in the house.
The reason why this episode is titled American Swagger, because we impart style on the entire world. And you look at dudes from other countries, and they ain't got that swagger. You know what I'm saying? Like they got a different situation going. And what's crazy is that these dudes can come from like crazy war-torn places, and I'm like, all right, man, you a survivor, but you dry. You know what I'm saying? Like you still ain't got style. The cool thing is that, we feed each other our styles. You know what I'm saying? Or look at hip hop, for example. True original hip hop is self-expression. And so everybody's style is a reflection of their lived experience and their personality.
When you talk about the Mississippi Delta, when you talk about blues,
right. But but just hip hop as an example. The reason why I'm using that, because that is a critical mass of all this lived Negro experience translated through your genes, coming out through breakdancing. That can be scratching records or communicating the griot with lyrics, speaking these truths to power. With hip hop, you've had all this that came before us that we were able to tap into and use, which is the blues and jazz and R&B and funk music, all of it condensed into hip hop. And right around the mid 80s to like early 90s, it was like this slow final crystallization of that intelligence.
This is the reason, Russell, this is purely American black folks. There are other people, there's Puerto Rican black folks.
When I see British MCs, I'm just not, I am not impressed. I see black MCs from like the UK, I'm not impressed. Dude, there's some cool ones, you know what I'm saying? But like, I'm just not impressed. People are like, oh, you're being hip. No. You got to understand like the lens that I see the world through and like who I come from and who my people are.
Okay, so Wilberforce, they ended their slavery like a couple hundred years before us. So people act like the struggle was gone. Sometimes when you take the chains off, the mental chains are still there. You don't hear them talking politically the way we do. And I shouldn't say we because they don't talk political now, but the hip-hop we grew up on, the KRS-Ones, the Dead Prez,
Public Enemy.
Harris, Public Enemy, you don't see them coming from there. Now, I'm sure because in fact, Chuck D would talk about like, hey, there's an underground movement. So we don't hear that shit. But you got to remember the swagger, I'm not afraid of you. You
don't understand. I ain't afraid of you, motherfuckers.
Fuckers.
That's why, like, if you see, not just music. We just quoted Bernie Mac. Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a street dude with swagger who became a revolutionary.
Special. Either we're country or we're street or we're all the above. But one of my favorite Richard Pryor jokes. This is whenever I use that Cat Williams quote. What's your favorite Tiffany Haddish joke? Because you ain't got one. But Richard Pryor said, "Hey, when we was over in Africa, we was Natutsi, we was Shimba, we was all these different tribes, and we were fighting." And God brought us over to America, made us all one tribe, nigga. What he's saying is that we were forced to.
No. We made ourselves black. They made a nigga. A nigga is a construct made in America.
Hold on. He said nigga as a tribe. Second.
No, I got to correct that. I'm not going to sit here and just let that shit slide. Go ahead.
No, there's nothing to slide. So where did the word nigga come from?
Listen. This whole like nigga etymology bullshit. Don't do that Tupac shit. That never ignorant getting goes to come. Don't do that shit.
I'm not going there. What I'm saying is the idea that certain words are niggers. That we don't want to admit where it came from, and everybody tries to tell you it comes from certain things. We were already over here. We use these certain terms. We use all this shit. The bottom line is they didn't give us shit. We took everything, and we were already over here. They took our way. Even the word Confederacy. Confederacy was Native American. I digress. What I'm saying is we're so much bigger, and we had our legacy stolen. That's how this shit started. We have been used and taken from so much that sometimes we don't realize that it's our shit. And then we decide to ask for it back. You don't have to ask for shit that you own. That swagger is us. That ability to say fuck authority. That ability to say that, you know what? I don't need you.
You don't know me, fool. You disown me? Cool. I don't need your authority, social minority.
People don't know how dope Ice-T was. But hold it. Let me get back to the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that sometimes you get beat down so much you don't realize that you are the better human being. You're the better thing. You're the better person. And that's what happened to us. But we've always kept that bottom underlying, fuck you. I don't need you. That's what we grew up on. When you watch them black exploitation movies, Car Wash, for instance, you watch those movies, but the workers are the ones they wanted to be like. Like, hey, I got all the money, but I got the girl, I got the car, I got everything I want over here. You want what I want. And you think even though you control the car wash, you really not in control because at any moment we can rise up and change the situation. That is a microcosm of everything that we went through in America and how we've been. And now we're losing that to where the worker really thinks that these billionaires are better than them. I got a young cat I work with, and he sits here and he's all over Tesla. He's all over Elon. And I'm like, bruh, that dude's not a genius. He's autistic. He's actually slower than you. It's just the fact that his family had a little bit of money. Then he was part of that PayPal mafia, made a little bit of money from that. But we didn't admire the motherfuckers back in the day. You cannot admire your oppressor. And that's where we are right now, where they're admiring, like, man, they got more money. Oh, man, they got better cars. They got like, why would you admire that? Nigga, get up and get your own shit. And we've always had, we would buy a used car, put rims on that motherfucker, flex it out. In the Mac, he was talking about his Cadillac, and he said, "Hey, I got $50,000 in my pocket, got $175,000 out there on that Cadillac. I got, yeah, but that's it. We make it ours. Buying a car does not make it yours. I get it does financially, but what I'm saying is what you add to it. It's the fact that every black woman and every black man, every black child in this country, when I say black, I mean Native American, I mean Native Indian, I mean African, I mean from the Caribbean, whatever. We have this ability to add our swag to it, and that's what my brother's telling you. These white guys, they do the mud trucks, but all that shit came from us. That was still country back in the day. That's the shit that we did first. All this shit we did first, but now it's like, okay, so you buy.
You see, here's the thing though. Like, I hear all these critics dissect the album, and they talk about, oh, well, this is created because of this and this and that. But see, they're talking about, oh, well, you know, the Negro in the South and the Negro in the Midwest, they were influenced by such and such and such and such. And I'm like, what you are not saying is soul. See, soul is that thing that you can't get your hand around. Now, the occultists, they want it. They want your loosh. They want the energy. They want the emotional exhaust. They want the soul exhaust. They want to suck your soul out of your body. They're trying so hard to figure out how to get the soul out of these meat suit containers. They really want to get to know you from the inside out, not the outside in. And every bit of technology since September 11th has been about control systems and tracking and monitoring and all these things that are showing that they clearly want to control you. And then they're esoteric, in the upper echelon, or they're quiet behind the door, eyes wide shut, weird ass meetings. They really want control of your soul. Now, your intellect is enough because they get that with schooling. Your finances are already, like, you know, in control because the banking, man, crypto got away from them and they fucking, you know, basically got control over that. So they want to control every aspect. Like, have you ever known a person that was so OCD, they want to control how you speak, how you act, what you wear? I'm not talking about your parents. But what do you do with people like that? You jettison those people out of your lives. Get away from me. I don't want to be around that shit.
This is one of the biggest problems with social media. So back when Kendrick did the Super Bowl last year, there's this black dude. Why the hell would you let him do that? He's not popular enough. He's not this. And I'm like, this is a nigga talking? It might not be, because it could be a bot. I don't know. But I'm like, so we influence all this music. Second, he talks about Grand National. Them white boys love Grand National. Everything you said, there was so many things wrong with what you said. And here's the problem with social media. It'll get you so riled up where you want to fucking debate this nigga. And I'm like, what? No, stop. I don't agree with you, but I'm going on about my business. I got other shit to do. That's how niggas get wrapped up with social media, where you think that you're really getting your point across.
But here's the deal, though. Here is the deal. What you don't realize is that you are generating data exhaust from that interaction. Now, you are, and everybody else is being pimped for your voice, and your voice in zeros and ones.
And say your soul.
How long you're staring at the screen and what you communicate through that screen. That is monetized with or without your permission.
Ross, you get deep on this AI shit. Let's say this. You've just given information for somebody to put into AI to give it a personality. They're fine-tuning the AI. They're using every bit of you to make this a real person. And why? I don't know why. But I do know that they sit here and they don't need you to come to a screen and just, hey, you know, teach the AI how to talk or whatever. They're gathering that from you.
You know, one thing they're leaving out when you're talking to a bot on the phone? The breath.
Okay, hold it.
Dude, no,
So,
no, 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 no.
no, no, no.
The breath is so human.
Hold it. I'm not
The
disagreeing.
no, the breath is life. For anybody who meditates, you know, breathing is essential to all life on earth.
I don't want to say this because I don't want them to fix it. That's why I keep my mouth shut. But I keep hearing people use Joe Rogan's voice and keep hearing people use Denzel's voice. And I'm like, when you sit there and like the cadence is off, you can't. As humans, we listen for the tone and how the voice sounds. But as a child of God, I listen for, okay, there ain't no breath.
There's this black dude's voice they use for AI on all these social media posts you see on TikTok and like Instagram, and it's always some like conspiracy or historical thing. And he kind of sounds a little bit sweet, but like effeminate.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you know the voice I'm talking about. It's like today there was
Yeah.
these that went like that guy. That's not a real person.
Well, but hold it. They do the same thing with Billy Carson. And what drives me crazy is I'm sitting here and I'm like, wait a minute. There was no pause. Wait a minute. There's no crescendo. Like I said, I don't want them to fix it. But when I listen to stuff now, I'm listening for the AI. Is this really Denzel telling me something important, or is this? And I'm like, this is terrible. Look. I don't want them to fix it. The other thing is, they don't do fingers well. Watch the hand movements. You can't see the inside of the mouth. You can see the teeth. You might see a tongue, but that's so bad that I'm looking for that because we grew up. Like, what was the movie with Harrison Ford? Was it Blade Runner where they had he had to figure out if it was a real person or not? I grew up on that, so that is my point of view. I'm like, is this real? Because after I decide if it's real, then I listen to it. But if it's not real, take it with a grain of salt. Hey, this is entertaining. Keep it moving. That's what they want to drain your soul so they can put it into a computer. Even in the Bible, it talks about those giants and their souls still being there after the giants were killed. So my fear is out there that, okay, what if one of these wayward spirits goes into this AI? What if that's I think about all that shit. Not at the same time, of course, but I think about a lot of that shit. So when we're telling you our swagger, our humanity, what makes us special, this ability to create from God is creation. You are creating art. You're creating different things, whether you're building a house, whether you're doing the blueprints, that ability to create. They want to steal that part of our soul and put it into something else. And I'm like, I fight that, kicking and screaming. I don't agree with that. And your swagger, that individualism, that, hey, when I get a car, I do this, or I buy this type of car. See, sometimes the swagger is the car you pick. Sometimes the swagger is the car you make. Sometimes it's the clothes you pick. Sometimes it's the how you accessorize your clothing, or that is what makes you an individual. Look, I'm not into all this soft shit. I don't like all this faggoty, blah, 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 whatever stuff. But if a dude is a little feminine, I don't have a problem with him having swagger. I don't have a problem with Hulk Hogan wearing a boa. I don't have a problem with a motherfucker wearing a little bit of pink here and there. That's their business. But if you're trying to push that on me, hey, this would be perfect for your eyes, but nigga, you don't get the fuck away from me, nigga. If you don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but see, we've revealed on this show that push, that insistence that you accept that is artificial. Now, there's tolerance, and we've practiced, tolerance in this country for a long time.
In respect of other people. I got.
But they're forcing acceptance. So, but if I choose to accept something, that's my decision. I can listen. I tolerate everybody because I'm a civil person. I'm a gentleman. Now, acceptance, that's my choice. It's my choice to whether I accept something or not. You can't force me to accept anything.
Look, when you talk to your kids and you talk in different situations, like, hey, you're not supposed to mistreat people because they're different. But I don't need them to force their difference on you. That's a hard conversation to have, and it's a long, ongoing conversation. And that's the whole thing, is that sometimes, we don't feel like having a talk. Sometimes we're so busy with work. Sometimes we're so busy paying bills that we forget to impart in our children what's important. And if you trust the government or schools or whatever, yeah, we in trouble. You should be the first teacher that your children have. And when I say first, I don't just mean the first as when they're born. I mean first thing in the day, like, hey, we're talking about this, or we talk about this at dinner, or this, that, and the other, or that kind of stuff. Because their individualism will sometimes get drained right out of them. And that's not what I want. I want you to be able to take care of yourself, but I need you to be that individual, that swagger. We keep using that word over and over because there's a style about you. One of my daughters has a real dry sense of humor, and she was in acting class, and the guy was like, she's really funny, but she has, I know, a dry sense of humor. Yeah, how'd you know? Like, yeah, 'cause it's my daughter. Talk to her every day. But I had to teach her how to be funny, not in the sense that it was necessary, but it's like, hey, you like what you like. She's a big anime fan. Like, she doesn't like movies with real people anymore. That's another conversation. But that is her style. And I don't want to hold it. That's her. But you are absolutely correct. When somebody else tries to influence her or move it into a different direction, but that's who she is. I had her watching Voltron when she was 3 years old. You know that. So I didn't want her to be a smaller me. I wanted her to be a bigger her. And that's what's missing from society right now is that everybody wants you to be smaller. Everybody wants you to agree. I need you to be the bigger party, the bigger you. And that doesn't always mean money or, you know what I'm saying. That doesn't always look like what society wants it to look like. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to do this. That's not the only answer. That's not the only piece to the puzzle. But let's figure out what's the best thing for you, and let's accelerate at that. That's what I'm saying. And we get away from that. Look, when we grew up, if you punch your boss in the face because they did you wrong, I expect to lose my job. I'm cool with that. We got away from that. When you were talking about soul, there was a point in time, 70s going into the 80s, where white folks had soul. You had Michael McDonald. You had I can't think of the nigga's name. Everybody thinks he's black, but there was soul everywhere. They have sterilized society so much where you can't talk.
But those white people learned that from black people.
Well, don't matter where it came from, but I'm just saying it was on display. It was on full display, and everybody, they even talk to you different. Like, hey man, shoot, what we doing tonight? And that'd be the white person. You're like, okay, cool. And he was not, or she was not imitating being black. They had a real soul. They learned the soul from us. Is what you're saying. I agree completely, but they weren't wiggers. You got a lot of motherfuckers want to be a half white nigga now. Not that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this. There was a time. I love you because you're a movie buff, but I'm gonna give you an example of a movie only you would understand. Ice Pirates. That was a movie that was Robert Urich was in it. And when the black dude that was on, and he made a black robot. Hey, yeah, nah, because that was his style. It was a whole different thing. Now they make movies just because they want a blockbuster every time. That's not how you're supposed to do it. You make the art for art's sake, and then people gravitate to it, and you recognize the soul of that art. Not no more, man. Everybody wants to imitate somebody else.
The 1960s in the United States was a powerful and transformational time of development for the Negro identity. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and Muhammad Ali. 3 distinct personalities, each one offering a unique contribution to self-awareness. Malcolm X is known for his views on self-determination and self-defense. He defined land as the basis of freedom, justice, and equality. Malcolm was never violent. Instead, he preached that if the world was going to continue to be violent to black people, then we should be able to justly defend ourselves by any means necessary. That wasn't a threat. It was a signal to our oppressors that the fight for freedom, the fight for justice, and the fight for equality could not and would not be contained by racist attacks and tactics, but to the contrary, to be achieved in spite of opposition. The year before his death, Malcolm stood next to Martin Luther King Jr. and called on America to heed to the demands that the civil rights leader had for years been marching for. His thoughts on the control of your own image are even more relevant today. He once said, the media is the most powerful entity on the earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and make the guilty innocent, and that's power, because they control the minds of the masses.
They will have you cheering for the wrong person and mad at the wrong person at the same time. And that was the image of the black folks in America.
What's crazy is that many of the things that he said transcend time. From 1965 to 2025 into 26, What he is saying is even more relevant today, whether it's the deceptive nature of liberals who appear to be on your side and want to help you, but it's not really helping you. It's actually two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, the two wings on the same bird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that left wing, right wing bullshit is the same bird. It's America, and how they treat us and mistreat us and use us and take our land and take our oil, take our gold, all that stuff. That's been going on for years. That's why the misidentification of people or the re-identification of people is so important, because why would you need to re-identify somebody every 7-8 years? Because then they become confused on who they are. Also, it drives you crazy. Well, hold it. We had talked about this years ago. I remember I was watching these videos, these old black videos of like people who were talking about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and I just remember how articulate these brothers were, and they were from all over. You had people from the Midwest, like Chicago, Detroit. You had people from the East Coast. Now, I don't remember anybody from the West Coast. I'm not dissing West Coast, but I'm just saying from the videos I watched, we're talking from Philly, New York, and these. Well, how do you feel about the black movement? And these white guys just expected these guys to be, oh, I don't know, I like it. No, they came out and said, no. Malcolm has a 8-point program that applies this, this, and this, and he wants you to, and you would be just amazed by. So, if we were always educating ourselves. We were always black colleges, et cetera, but to hear people talk that were plumbers and carpenters and or women secretaries at the time, and they were so articulate. It just went. It ate at you a different way, because now you're like, no, our people were mistreated. Nobody set themselves up this way. Every time we came up with a Tulsa or North Carolina, they destroyed it. So, yeah, we can't be the problem every single time. And Malcolm preached that, hey, if somebody touched your family, you send them to the morgue. You send them to the grave. You don't sit here and negotiate, because no one else negotiates with us.
Anybody out loud, on stages, on television, or even here on the radio that was speaking the way that he did. And his contribution to the black identity, to the American swagger, is probably a lot more larger than most people realize, because you're walking with confidence. You understand that you don't have to ask for permission. You contrast that with people who were pacifists and didn't speak out and didn't really defend themselves, and were used to being in a certain box or being put in a certain place.
It was the same thing with Ali. When Ali protested and talked about, there's so many interviews of Ali being interviewed by white people. Well, what do you think about this? And Ali would say some articulate shit, and you like, this nigga can beat your ass and talk you to death at the same time.
Muhammad Ali, born Cassius Clay, is one of the greatest boxers that ever lived.
Period.
Ali transcended sports through radical political activism that has, with the passage of time, been largely smooth of its rough edges. He broke the mold, introducing a new brand of masculinity, more humorous, more vulnerable than anything that the world has seen before. Political friendships with Malcolm X, and personal friendships with Malcolm X, and membership in the Nation of Islam announced the newly crowned boxing champ as a provocateur, one whose Cheshire cat smirk hid rivers of simmering anger, pain, and barely contained rage. For a time, boxing offered an outlet to the rage Ali felt about the unceasing racial humiliations of Jim Crow and the violence handed out against civil rights demonstrators across the country. But by 1967, Ali had seen enough. The most visible Nation of Islam member in the aftermath of Malcolm X's 1965 assassination, Ali's resistance to the draft and friendship with civil rights leader Stokely Carmichael made him perhaps the most visible black power activist of his generation. In doing so, Ali bridged the worlds between sports, popular culture, politics, and activism in profound ways. While contemporaries such as Cleveland Browns running back Jim Brown and Boston Celtics star Bill Russell were outspoken civil rights activists. None matched Ali's youth, charisma, and global appeal. Accounts of Ali's political courage during the 1960s tend to play up his anti-war exploits at the expense of his Black Power activism. In truth, the Black Power organization offered the earliest and most sustained resistance against the Vietnam War. Black Power activists made anti-war protests a core element of their political program, with a diverse range of groups including the Black Panthers, who were opposing America's involvement in Vietnam, and efforts by the U.S. military to ratchet up the number of African Americans fighting on the front lines. Ali's now legendary statement that no Viet Cong ever called me a nigger took place against the historical and political landscape that framed American foreign policy in Southeast Asia as part of an imperial war of aggression against non-white people of the world.
Look, what made Ali special were the words. I mean, the boxing, it wasn't secondary, so let's not pretend like it was. This motherfucker was whooping these motherfuckers' ass, you know.
But he wasn't just beating people. He was larger than life.
Yeah, hold it. All those were him. His persona, what he said before, his articulation of nigga will go down and forward, that kind of shit, you know, was amazing. And he was so confident, and everybody wanted him to, he's cocky. Then he decides, I'm not going to war as a conscientious objector. Like, hey, no, I'm not fighting in your war. It goes against my religion. I'm Muslim. I'm a religion of peace. Now, like I said, if you want to understand Ali, you have a chance nowadays. Just Google any of his speeches. He was having speeches with whole college classes. And the thing is, there's two things to remember that you got to understand. Ali was dyslexic. Everybody, he was writing, but he didn't write it down. He made that shit up as he went. And that's also who he was. He wasn't, this was his real identity. Like, hey, no, I have no problem boxing in a ring. I have no problem, but I have a problem going to war over a country that won't even heal my people over here. That's what made him so provocative. Remember, old boy was interviewing him. He was in England and Europe. They loved his ass. The dude was interviewing him and talking about, well, no good white people, or this, that, and other. He said, man, there's 1,000 snakes coming my way, and 100 snakes were good. Are the 100 snakes going to stop the 1,000 snakes from biting me? He would say shit like that. You're like, exactly. So you need to leave me alone. Let my people solve our problems, because you ain't solving our problems. That's the things that he was talking about. And when you talk about swagger, that nigga had swagger. I mean, dressed. He had albums. He just has. See, people don't. When you talk about swagger, you have this.
It's the way you walk, talk, act, stand there, your body language, everything. It's everything about you.
You have this grace about you under pressure. You know what I'm saying? Where, you know, that nigga lived with death threats, because you got to remember when he was knocking out them white boys and everything else, and more importantly, when he's not going to war. He don't love America. Like, wait a minute. America didn't love him. Y'all hated him when he came back. And I got a homeboy right now. He said, man, my uncles used to hate Ali. Even to this day, if you brought up Ali, they would bring up. So how do you hate me so bad? Because I wasn't supposed to be successful. You put these obstacles in my way.
These are black people?
No, it's white dude.
You got to delineate that, man. You say homeboys, motherfucker.
No. I mean,
don't just throw it away like that. Like, you make it sound like it's black people that hate Ali. Like, motherfucker, be distinct when you're talking. Stop just throwing the words away.
No. Hold it. First, I didn't realize there was a whole sect of Muslims that couldn't stand that nigga. And
but then you got to deliver the context, though.
No. Hold it. Kareem was one of them. When you talk about Bill Russell, Kareem had a problem with Ali, and this shit is crazy. But here's the thing with him though. Who gives a fuck about that guy? Just because he's black and a Muslim. First of all, when you look at his track record, he tends to be a go along to get along motherfucker, man. Because hold it.
No. And it plays out in his later life. This guy was so pro-vaccine. You know what I'm saying? And he ended up looking like a fucking moron. And then he got fucking damaged because of the shit. And then the fact that he fucking denies that he got the damage because of the shit.
Look, so the beef back then, these motherfuckers was killing each other. This is what Malcolm was really talking about. How these different sects of Muslims would attack each other, but would not attack white folks, would not attack the people that were actually oppressing them. And there was a big split. I don't want to explain it incorrectly, but there was a big split. And one of these guys was living in Cream had several houses. And some of these Muslims were living in his house. And they attacked that dude's house trying to get to this one black guy, killed his wife and daughter. And so that's the real reason Malcolm left the Nation of Islam. It's like, you got a whole army at your disposal.
No, but they are willing to kill black people.
Yes.
They will not touch white people.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. They won't touch the white people that are doing harm to us. That's what I need to say.
Look, you are absolutely correct. And that was when you find his story, it was fucked up. It was sick. So these motherfuckers went there to kill this dude. He wasn't even there, and they didn't care who was there, whoever was there. Yeah, that's some bullshit. And like I said, we're talking about Ali's swagger. Ali because you got to understand, he was dealing with that too. You know what I'm saying? So he wasn't afraid of nobody. You know what I'm saying? He didn't care. If you come at me, I will beat your ass. And if
so young boys and other men saw that, and they were inspired. Now, see, there were people who would listen to Malcolm X, and there were people who would listen to Muhammad Ali, but they wouldn't listen to Malcolm X. They identify with Muhammad Ali, more identify with the political words of Malcolm X. But the whole thing is that it didn't matter. Whether they got it from him or the other, it didn't matter. Now then you had Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, towards the end of his life, he started to see things differently. He started to question some of the choices that he made. And he said in an NBC interview that was shot on 35 millimeter in color, it says, I may have. Well, he didn't say that in the interview, but he was talking about. You could tell in his verbiage.
It was in one of his books also that he had integrated his people into a burning house.
But what he was saying though in this NBC interview is he was talking about reparations.
Yeah.
And he was saying the quiet part out loud. Now, up until that point, not even Malcolm X had talked about reparations. Not directly in that way.
When Malcolm was talking about
what Martin Luther King, but that's the thing though. When Malcolm X says it, that's Malcolm X talking Malcolm X shit. When Martin Luther King talks about reparations, that's a whole different thing. Because then the Boule was like, shh, no. Don't say that shit.
Yeah, no. It's two parts that you got to understand. Is that once Martin Luther King realized that marching shit didn't get us where it should have got us, we got some things, and that's what pisses you off when all these other people piggyback off our struggle. But King's point was we need fight. He was like, hey, no, old boy from Tuskegee, he's like, this is about financial. Goddamn, Booker T. Washington, all them niggas was about, you gotta have jobs and this, that, and other. And King's like, go to college, do this. But what changed it was the fact that he's like, we need reparations. Everybody else who's been wronged by this country, everybody else who's been wronged by somebody else has gotten reparations for that.
Let me tell you something. I see reparations every day. I see reparations for Korean people. And
we had this talk. Come on.
Listen, and I see them driving around in all of these fucking Mercedes and BMWs. I'm like, yo, it's a lot of motherfucking Koreans got that bread around here, man. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
and then you find out, when we talked about this years ago when we first doing the podcast, when I was in high school, there was a couple Korean kids. I don't think any of them were Chinese, but I can remember old boy's name. He had a brand new Mazda B2300. It was had the little door in back. It was all white. He had the ground effects. I'm like, damn, and I never do this. You know me. How do you afford that? He go, tape. Don't you understand? He said, we get 7 years tax free when we come over here. Like, I said, what are you talking about? And he explains that, hey, you know, some kind of way they had concentration camps back in World War II, and because of that, they gave us reparations.
No, not World War II, the Korean War.
No. World War II had concentration camps here for any Asian American.
Internment camps. They were mostly for Japanese, but all of them got rounded up and put in there.
Yeah, you're talking about the Korean War later. You are correct.
No, but they get money for that shit.
Yeah. Hold it. I'm talking. That's it, right? This is our point. You have 2 different sect of Asian peoples. I'm not trying to diss anybody. This is not us. But both these people get reparations. They get so many tax-free years if you come over here. That shit right there, where our people...
And at the same time, we can't even get an SBA loan. In the 90s, it was so hard to try and get a fucking SBA loan. It was so fucking hard.
When me and you talked about this, it was 2002, I tried to get a small business administration loan. Woman told me to my face, hey, this is about military, this is about women. I'm like, well, but I'm black though, I'm a minority. She's like, I'm not minority enough right now. I swear it might have been 2006.
But you know what? You needed to hear that because that was the truth.
Yeah, no, it was the truth. Now, the other thing, goddamn, let's talk about swagger. So I got a homeboy that went through the SBA. There used to be an SBA right there on 24th and Lake. I got a homeboy who went to them, and they turned us down. They kept trying to get his recipe. We were making tamales. They kept trying to get his recipe. Well, the chick he was dating got a $50,000 SBA loan through them, and I saw right away how this went. She shouldn't say only. So she went through the organization. It's the SBA, but it was some other organization. They took half her loan, so she got $25,000, and they kept the $25,000. Crazy. She was making shea butter. And she was, making.
And she could have went through them with. I mean, all she had to do was just go fill out the application herself, and she would have got it. That's
where it gets complicated. So what happened with me is I started noticing that every university out here had an SBA. So Iowa Western is right on the other side of Council Bluffs. I went over there. This woman started helping me with everything, and she's like, "Yeah, do this, do that." She gave me paperwork, and she gave me a whole thing how to set up my website. That's what I started doing. I didn't even have the business idea yet. I was just curious to see, and I learned my lesson. And I'm telling all the black folks, all the people listening, if you want to do the SBA, Small Business Administration, take your ass to some of these universities because some of these areas, some of these black part of town, they have an SBA. It's different. Take your ass out. For us,
you got to go to neutral territory.
Yes. So when you go to these universities, they're much more forward about helping, telling you where to apply, stuff like that, and not trying to take an exact fee on you. When you learn a lot of stuff on your own, you're a different person. Roscoe will tell you, I went out there on my own. Hey, I'm not working today. Actually, I'm lying. What I did was I doubled. So I was off for 3 days, and I went to 2 or 3 different ones. And when I saw how the one in my part of town was treating me, no, I went to the west part of town and sat down, had interviews, talked to them.
What's so insane, though, is that you have to jump through these hoops. You have to do all this strange alchemy just to get an edge.
Just to get what other people are getting. How about that part? Other people, man, look, that's what's so important about the whole black swagger thing. American black people. Because you could put so many obstacles in our way, and I still will either excel or I'll figure out, okay, how does this apply to me? Where do I go? Who can help? We still got the Underground Railroad mentality. We still do certain things and we don't share with other people. That whole idea, whenever you see these movies or TV shows and you see the Italian mob or these Jewish people, they talk, oh, you guys don't stick together. You guys don't do it. That is not true. We were literally broken up on purpose. And we were literally misidentified so you don't understand your legacy and who you are. So when you see a brother, we used to call it the pimp walk, but you realize that is a Cherokee war walk. That's how we manage. A nigga will get off work, pick up his kids, and you see him walking down the street, and you're like, oh man, he still got style, skills.
There was this interview recently between where Deion Cole, the comedian, interviewed Mike Epps, And some people like Mac Epps, some people don't like Mac Epps.
He's hit or miss. But when he hits,
but here's the thing though. This guy has a lot of valuable insights though. Because when you hear him speak, he says some poignant things. So he was talking about how when he grew up in his neighborhood, he saw guys, even though they didn't have nothing, they still had self-love. They still had confidence. They still had personality. Even though they was down and out, they still had swagger.
Yes.
And he said, like, those are the people that encouraged him. He was like, it wasn't the guy with everything that had the swagger that he thought was interesting. It was a dude who had nothing and still had swagger. That's what this show right here is about. It's about keeping your swagger, keeping your style, keeping yourself together no matter what is going on. That was my motivation for making this episode, is to show people that, like, no matter what happens to us, you still got your soul. You got your soul, but you got your soul. You got your swagger. You got your style.
You got your connection to a higher power, and it's evident in how you move. Even when somebody throws something in your face that's completely disgusting, or, hey, you're a janitor, you don't look down on that person. And back then, you couldn't look down on that person because a nigga would whoop your ass if you said the wrong shit to him. We came from the 70s where, as my mom would say, nigga, I was looking for a job when I found this one. I'll just look for another one. What that means is that, nigga, I'll quit in a second.
The job does not define me.
Yes. And so, this is a terrible story to tell. So, I was in college, and I became friends with my homeboy named Ethy. He got killed at a bar out here. And so, but back in college in Oklahoma, we were going to a club. Literally, it's nighttime. The whole thing is nothing but motherfucking cars. We had to park far away. And I'm walking in, and there's a nigga in a green suit, had two hoes behind him. He was a pimp from Omaha. And he recognized Ethy from playing basketball. I forgot where he used to play basketball at. And he's like, hey, man, you used to play at Fountain? I said, no, I played at Fountain Elementary. But he still, he knew somebody in my family because he named a name, one of my cousins. I'm like, oh, no shit. And that's a terrible story to tell. but you got to understand, I'm in Oklahoma. I'm 3 or 4 states away from where I'm from. And somebody recognizes you. And when you see that style, when you see, like, this is a terrible story. I know an Omaha pimp from a Chicago pimp. I know how certain people move. And so you got to understand that you can't oppress me. God didn't give you the power to oppress me. You can change. You keep changing the game. You keep changing the rules of the game. You keep changing what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to college. No, I'm supposed to have a trade. No, I'm supposed to have this. You keep changing that shit.
So Michael Jai White, in an interview recently, was talking about why he created Black Dynamite.
Oh,
and he said,
come on.
He was talking about why, when he grew up, why would everybody be idolizing pimps? And I said, well, that right there is a psyop to elevate pimps above common people. Because you notice pimps did not become commonplace in popular culture until all the civil rights leaders were killed.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, no. It makes sense because at that time, heroin was being flooded into the black community. And so with heroin, the other vices started to take center stage, prostitution, because people would prostitute themselves to get their heroin fix. And so you had all these pimps and all these dope dealers take control of the community after the Panthers were gone, Malcolm X was gone, Martin Luther King was gone. That part right there is part of the demolition of black culture, of black sovereignty, of black identity. And even through all that, we kept our swagger. But what people need to pay attention to, what Michael Jai White was saying, is the whole reason why he created Black Dynamite is because kids were idolizing the wrong thing. He was like, Superfly and all this bullshit, those were all in the Mac, those are pimps. You all right? And then, fucking Shaft was a detective. I mean, a private investigator.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is like neither one of those is doing anything, you know what I'm saying, to help black people. So, but here's the thing.
Shaft was a man, though.
No, see, but that's an idea that was sold to you. That's
No, no.
that, no. That's created by Hollywood. And like even though Gordon Parks, okay, great. But at the end of the day, that wasn't moving anything forward. So the whole thing is that Black Dynamite was neither of those. He was basically the Muhammad Ali of karate. And he was going out there just kicking motherfuckers' ass and like, beating up the bad guys and shit and beating up the man who's, trying to put the shit into the water.
It was a satire.
Yeah, it was a satire, yes. But the whole thing is that even still, there's a Black Dynamite cartoon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The image of Black Dynamite is now burned into modern black boys' minds. That's the point I'm getting at.
Okay, back it up. You said a lot of deep shit, and you touched on a bunch of stuff. So we got our first things, COINTELPRO. So you got to understand, to stop the Black Panthers, they had to infiltrate the Black Panthers with Richard Aoki. So there was an Asian dude who had been used by the FBI to do some subversive work already in the Asian movement in California at the time. They used him again with the Black Panthers. The first guns the Black Panthers got were from the FBI. Richard Aoki sold them to them. So this is how backwards the shit is. So you see the Black Power movement, you want to stop it. So what do? You give it guns and you radicalize it. I can't say radicalize it. Radicalize it and make it even worse. So, like I said, the first guns the Black Panthers got sounds like Fast and Furious, don't it? Well, we don't want the guns to give to the cartels. Give these guns to the cartels, and then they get used to kill a border patrol agent. So then you talked about heroin and cocaine and how when you remove the jobs from the inner city, when you fuck these people over, when you get rid of those factories and you flood the hood with cocaine prior to that heroin, what I'm saying is we went through all that and we still had swagger and grace. We still were the powerful people that we've always been to be. You can't stop us. In fact, you imitate us every chance you get. That's what Black Swagger is about. How the oppressor wants to be me so badly that he or she tries to.
But you ain't gonna stop my shine. And that's the whole gist of this episode, is that no matter what is coming down on you, you still deflecting that shit, talking about get the fuck up out of here. I'm still gonna rise. Get the fuck away from that bullshit.
With them damn
I'm gonna shine regardless. Look, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.